Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Life List. Good to be with everybody. I am here with my co-host Alvaro Jaramillo. This is George Armistead. Alvaro, what is going on, man?
Hey, how you doing? We're here, West Coast. It's windy. It's like been the windiest it's been in a while. So that's kind of interesting, kind of dropping into fall. And, it's, you just feel it in the air right now,
Nice. Yeah. You know me, I love the crispness of fall. It hasn't really, we kind of hit a low over here where it's kind of been kind of humid and a little muggy and not kind of the crisp, cool fall that I love. But it's starting to pick up. We had a pretty big whack of birds last night, and it's shaping up well for the next couple of days. It looks like some pretty good migration.
Nice. But hey, I got to say, you have other non-bird news for us, and we have to sort of extend a big congratulations to you guys, because some of you may have already heard in another podcast we'll talk about in a second, but George is now a married man. Congratulations, George.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been great. And yeah, it's certainly, it's been kind of a whirlwind last week plus. But Kristen and I are doing great. Got married down on the eastern shore of Maryland, and got a little nervous there about the day, not the day before, but 2 days before we were to do the wedding. I kept saying to folks that were going, we just did a small wedding. I was like, everything will be cool as long as the weather's good. And like the day, like 2 days before, I woke up to a lightning bolt, literally like a lightning bolt and thunder. I don't know where it hit, but it was close. And I was like,
that's a sign.
Yeah. I was like, oh man. And it rained like, I don't know, 6-7 hours that day. It just felt like it was never going to stop, and it was windy. And I was like, what is going on? But it dried out and calmed down for the day of, and we had a beautiful day, surrounded by family. And yeah, it was a heck of a day. It went great.
I think for bird or naturalists, there's nothing. I mean, you have to go with an outdoor wedding. It's like the chapel is nature, right?
Exactly.
But it also, can be problematic. You're there, you're supposed to be paying attention, and birds are flying over.
Yeah,
you're listening to what's going on. I want to know, did you have a wedding eBird list?
We did not. And I seriously considered trying to do that. But it was like looking around, it was like it was me and Kristen and my dad were really the only birders there. And like, I noticed, red start, black and white warbler. We had our feeders were out. Carolina chickadees were coming to the feeders, and titmice, and a few odds and ends. Otherwise, there's always bald eagles flying around there. But we were focused on the food, the fun times, and just having a good old time. And
and you've got to understand too that there's no protocol in eBird for wedding, because it's not quite stationary. It's not quite traveling. It
would have had to be an incidental list.
Incidental. It's incidental. Maybe that's it.
That would have been the way to go.
If the eBird people are listening, please, we need a wedding protocol.
Yeah, it seems not too much to ask. We need, somebody call it Marshall Iliff and be like, dude, where's the wedding protocol, man?
That's right. You want, but anyways, congratulations, George.
Yeah, man, thanks.
It's great, and now you're shopping around for a house and all that, and we can talk about that later, another podcast, how that goes, because when that happens, you'll have a yard list that you can then tell us about,
Dude,
oh boy,
I am so keen on that. I am so keen. I really want to find a place. Yeah, exactly. I want to find a place that I can like get all the native shrubs in there, maybe get a nice pin oak for all the, the songbirds. So yeah, we will get to that in due course. But yeah, that's going on as well. So there's a lot going on right now.
But, I mentioned that the news had been broken elsewhere. We just had a great time a few days ago. Was it last week? Talking to Charlie Hesse of Naturally Adventurous.
Yeah.
And gosh, shout out to those guys for inviting us. And Ken Behrens was not there. He's out lost in Africa somewhere.
Yeah, I think he was like out in the Karoo of South Africa rolling around someplace. Yeah, it's like, that he doesn't mess around, all business.
No, But I thought it was great, this conversation that took us to things that we haven't talked about here, a little bit about sort of the origin of our birding and some stories about looking for birds here and there. And that's what they do. They talk sort of about searching for birds all around the world and some of the things that happen and the hijinks and all that. And I think it's particularly, a podcast that relates so well to some of the job, description of being a tour leader and some of the things that happen while you're scouting for birds or looking for birds or sorting all this stuff out. So it was good fun to do that and have sort of a different aspect of some of the things we haven't talked about here yet. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Those guys know what they're doing. They've been doing that podcast for a long time. It's one of my absolute favorites. They have a ton of experience all over the world. They both live in really interesting places. Charlie's there in Chiang Mai, like in Thailand, and Ken's living in Madagascar. And yeah, they got a ton of time in the field, a ton of great stories, and it was really fun to get some time with them.
One of the things that I thought was actually really funny, I didn't, obviously you don't want to point this out while you're on the podcast, but he's been all over the world, as Charlie Hesse, but he did not know where the Delmarva Peninsula was. It's like,
I know we need to give him a hard time about that.
I know, we need to give him, a map of the U.S., but he's probably gone to the very specific kind of, really birdy sites in the U.S., Texas and, Florida or whatever. He's maybe never been that far north.
It's possible. Yeah.
I don't know. But not tropical enough. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that was one term he didn't know, Alvaro, but there was another term that came up that not only did he not know, but I didn't know. And since that podcast episode is aired of Naturally Adventurous, I have been taking a little bit of a beating for not knowing what a rockounder was.
Rockhound. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, rockhound. You see, I can't even get the term right. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody who, like a birder, looks for birds. Rockhound looks for rocks. And I was almost,
You were disappointed in me, weren't you? I felt like you were disappointed.
Well, it sort of was made to seem like this might be just a Canadian term, but apparently it's as American as it is Canadian. So I would just sort of say that now I am shocked at your
maybe even a little, maybe even a little dismayed.
Yeah, these big words, but. But rockhound, you did not know?
Yeah, Doug Gotchfeld actually was like, dude, how can you not know what a rockhound is? And he sent me a YouTube clip from Shawshank Redemption where, Red and Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins are sitting around talking about the rock hammer, that he jokes about how he could never get out of prison with that. And of course, that's exactly what he did. Spoiler alert. Sorry.
Yeah. And it's funny. I didn't even think about that term. I thought like everybody knew what that was. And then I was really surprised, but just turned out that I was talking to the only two people on earth that did not know what a rockhound was.
I know. So really, we both need to get our act together. Me especially, being on this side of the pond.
Right. That was good fun though. And yeah, thanks to them. And we'll put out on the notes below here, how to go and listen to them. So if you like this podcast, you may like that one too.
Yeah. Yeah. I enjoyed detailing my first black rail experience, right? You were telling me you've had some interesting black rail experience as well.
Oh yeah. So, black rail, if you look at the map, in the field guide, it's kind of spotty all over the place. And I went on this research project with my supervisor at the time, Jim Rising, who's passed away now a few years back.
He wrote that Sparrow Guide.
Yeah. Jim's the Sparrow Man, and he was on the AOU committee when it was called the AOU Taxonomic Committee and stuff. We used to drive around talking about bird taxonomy and all this, but he invites me to go and do this work on orioles in the hybrid zone in western Kansas. But on our way over there, we went birding a few spots, and it was kind of central Kansas, near the Quivira National Wildlife Refuge, or maybe it was around there or somewhere, one of those spots where
Cheyenne Bottoms.
Yeah.
Just another great refuge there. Yeah.
Where black rail's supposed to be. And, in my mind, I had all these things I'd never seen in my life that I had a chance for seeing on this trip. It was the first trip I saw, canyon towhee and, various other sort of more Western things. My first Buick's wren. It's weird because, at this point in time, they're backyard birds for me. We were out of Toronto, so we drove out, and middle of the day one day, we're out there in this like kind of dry, marshy area, but there's this one wet spot. And I say to Jim, hey, you think like black rail could be here? And he's like, oh man, he's like, and see, Jim grew up in Kansas. He was from there. He'd grown up birding all those places. And he said, oh man, black rail's supposed to be around here, but it's never seen, hardly anybody hears them. It's like a super rarity. He said, I've never seen one my whole life. I'm like, you're kidding me. And I said, well, this little wet spot here looks pretty good. And it was actually cattails, which actually isn't that good but it had some grassy area around it. And there was like a little dark tunnel into the cattails. And I just decided I would play a tape of a black rail in the middle of the day, sun, blasting down exactly when you shouldn't. There's no hope to see anything, let alone a black rail. And I do this, and after a few calls, a black rail popped right out of that tunnel. And I say, hey, Jim, look at this. There's a black rail. And he said, he's like, well, I'll be darned. It's like, there it is.
Wow.
And it's, nothing like that ever happens,
Yeah.
And he said, I can't believe that, we go into my home state, in the absolute middle of the day, you play this black rail and it comes out, and it was just one of those magical things, but yeah, I've seen him a few times since, usually in Palo Alto Baylands when they used to come out on the high tide.
Yeah.
And otherwise in relatives and other populations in South America, I think you've seen, I know you've seen the Galapagos rail, right? It's pretty similar.
Yeah. Yeah. Real similar. The calls, similar, but different, right? They really do like, it seems like they do a lot more fast. They got a whole bunch of different stuff they do, but
it's almost like they, instead of going kind of kiki-do, they go kikr.
Yeah.
Kikr. Like it's a kind of a raspy, but it's the same quality,
Yeah. Yeah. The exact same quality, really. And it seems like sometimes they will, when they get real agitated, go into the kiki-do, kiki-kur. But most often that's not the way it is. They do that more raspy call. Yeah. And I've had good luck with them there. I think I've done 10 tours and seen them. I only missed them once. And that was actually, it was the tour. My dad was on that tour and I really wanted to get him one because he's such like a black rail guy. He studied them, even though he's only ever seen them really just the one time. I really wanted him to see that bird, and that was like the one time I didn't manage to pull it off. But yeah, it's a great bird, and the funny thing about them too is even just within their range on the islands, you find them in a pretty strange range of habitats, from the Myconia zone up there into sort of grassy fields down lower. I guess people even get them like in the mangroves and stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I guess. But I think overall, they are not in the habitats you would think a black rail type thing should be in, right? Like they're in the highlands and they're in places that are moist, obviously, but not that, grassy / salt marsh type habitat that you think of black rail. And interestingly enough, if you get further south in Chile, the black rails there again go into marshes and salt marsh and so forth. They're in that habitat you would call black rail habitat, and they're considered black rails. But weirdly enough, although they look like black rails more than Galapagos rails, they sound like Galapagos rails. So we suddenly have there's multiple things going on in there. And probably different species, because these birds don't learn their songs. They're they kind of,
and they're all isolated. Yeah,
isolated. And recently there's been some work done on the genetics of some of these birds. And what's interesting is like if you lined up a bunch of these rails, yellow rail and black rail, and some of the other ones in the genus also Lateralis, like the red and white crakes and so forth. Some of them look alike and others don't. And one of them that actually looks like a black rail is in a different genus.
Yes.
Which is the dot-winged crake.
I was just going to bring that one up because I got to see that one finally 2 years ago. And I always looked at it in the book and I was like, they have it as a Porzana, but I'm like, that's gotta be a Lateralis. And then I saw the thing and I was like, oh, that's not a Lateralis.
But guess what?
It is.
The genetics are that it actually is a black rail group.
Oh,
it's
wow.
Not, and for those who don't know what a Porzana is, it's Sora.
Yeah.
So Sora and some of the other crakes. So it turns out it actually is a black rail. And
That's funny.
If you listen to some of the calls, it actually sounds kind of black railish again.
Huh. Yeah.
And recently, it was also confirmed that the inaccessible island rail, which is way out in the middle of the ocean in the South Atlantic, out by Tristan da Cunha. This thing is a flightless rail, and it's part of the same group. So we suddenly have this kind of subgroup within the crakes, which is black rail, Galapagos, dot-winged crake, and inaccessible island rails.
Yeah, now I thought dot-winged and inaccessible aren't they closest to each other? I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like inaccessible, like basically kind of parades around out in open space, right? Like I think I've seen pictures of that thing. It looks like it's just like,
it's like a rodent,
Yeah, exactly.
It's flightless and it's kind of almost hairy looking with a long bill, It's weird.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating, like that. There's some of it that we had it all, the scientists had it all wrong. Like these things that were in 3 different groups of rails, they all are actually related. And if you listen to them, you actually could have sorted some of this out. And even some of the visuals, like the dot-winged crake is kind of, there's aspects of it that look,
once I saw that thing, I was like, I see why people thought this is a Porzana. Because structurally that it looked more like that to me than the vocalizations I heard. It was just giving like little high pitched kind of squeak calls. And that was different than anything else I'd heard. Maybe there's more vocalizations now than I'm aware of.
There's more now. Yeah. More range of them. And in fact, it's become easier to find. And for some weird reason, some of the Chilean birder, it's been mainly an Argentine, Uruguay sort of species. That's where it's sort of mainly Argentina.
De Plata,
yeah, and it was recently in the last 10 plus years found in westernmost Argentina, and now it's been found in Chile there's a little population which people thought, oh, they're vagrants, but they're resident and there's multiple individuals. And you start wondering, like, was that thing always there? And
Right.
it took birders to be sort of roaming around to find them, or did they just cross the Andes and it's a new population? But it's interesting to me,
They only just recorded the song of that thing for the first time, like 10 years ago or less, I think?
Yeah. So it's a pretty, again, like black rail, it's patchy. It's in these little spots here and there, and who knows,
enigmatic.
Maybe it's more widespread. Yeah.
But really cool birds, those secretive little phantoms of the marsh. And,
yeah.
Even within their kind of East Coast Mid-Atlantic range, they vary. Like the ones on the Delmarva Peninsula often like Spartina patens grasses. And then you get down to the Outer Banks, they often like juncus, like needle rush. And then you got these freshwater ones, and they are interesting, weird, enigmatic, and hard to see for the most part. Cool bunch of birds.
Yeah. And hey, thinking about rare vagrants and well, I wouldn't call them phantoms quite, but as a migrant, they kind of are. Kirtland's warbler.
Yes.
I hear you saw one.
Yes, man.
You Finally. And a million other people.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I've never seen that bird. I've always wanted to go and see them up there in Michigan where they nest. For most folks that are listening probably know Kirtland's warbler has a really restricted range, mostly in Michigan. They spill over a little bit into Wisconsin and into Ontario. The bulk of them are in Michigan. It was recently delisted from the endangered species list. I forget what the population is now. I think it's over 3,000, maybe over 4,000. But they only breed there. They only winter in the Bahamas, pretty much. And then finding them anywhere in between there is real tricky. I mean, on the Great Lakes, if you're lucky, McGee Marsh seems like they get one, sometimes even two, most springs. But anywhere in between there, man, it's tough to find. And I've kind of avoided going to Michigan. I shouldn't say that, but like, my priority has always been like, I want to see a migrant. And of course, I want to find a migrant. But, I'm getting into my late 40s now, still haven't found that migrant. And I'm like,
yeah, I hear a while.
Yeah, exactly. I hear that Ramsey Corey was down there in Baltimore birding this little park, urban park, Swan Park. It's a couple baseball fields. And then, right on a little branch off the Chesapeake Bay there. I forget what part of the river that is. And like there's some Phragmites and some groundsel tree, Baccharis. And this thing just pitched in there. Ramsey was there. I don't even know what he was doing, but he found this thing on a Monday, right? And then everybody had to wait. Anyone who's working, has stuff to do during the week, had to wait until Saturday to go down, which is what I did. And, it was like, I woke up at like 3 a.m. I was like, I really want to go see this bird. And poor Kristen, I woke her up. I was like, let's grab the dog and go. I want to see this thing. I've been waiting to find my migrants, somewhere here in Jersey or Delaware or Pennsylvania. Not happening. I'll save that for another day, I hope. Let's go see this thing. We got there at dawn, and thing paraded around beautifully. There was probably 15 or 20 of us. I found out a whole bunch of folks went and saw it later that day. But over the course of the week, I mean, it must be hundreds of people have been seeing it in the photos. If you look at eBird top media for the last week or two, or last week or so, that there are a lot of really good images of Kirtland's warblers. And I guess there's even some controversy about the behavior of some of the photographers. We won't get into that, but these birds are mostly kind of terrestrial. They feed low, and they present well a lot of the time. And people, I think they're not used to that with a lot of warblers, right? They hang out up in treetops, and everybody's sort of like, is this bird okay? Is it all right? Should we be concerned? And, if it hangs around too much longer, I guess perhaps there is reason for concern. But by and large, it's behaving like Kirtland's warblers do. And this one just kind of strayed maybe a little bit east of where they normally do on their southbound migration, but man, it's been such a great bird to see. And, I knew that they were supposed to be a big warbler, but I was still really impressed by just how big they are and all the tail bobbing, really remind you of a palm warbler in kind of behavior.
And they're lethargic almost. They're sort of slow moving, big warbler. And I've actually seen two on migration closer to the breeding grounds where it's easier. So one in Ohio and one in Ontario. And even in migration, and this habitat that you're describing is similar to what they take in the Caribbean, which is copse habitat, it's called, which is a shrubby, kind of hot, semi-open, might
sort of
even
shrub scrub, right?
Yeah, with a little cacti and that kind of stuff, and I remember the Ohio place was this, edge scrubby thing with sumac, and the caked earth, where it's been beaten down by the sun all summer kind of thing. The same with Peely there were little Opuntia cactus, and they just sort of like key into these spots where like, oh, I'm comfortable here. This looks like a little bit of the Caribbean right here, but in structure, not in the actual plant types.
Right.
And really specific warbler into what it takes.
Yeah. Breeding up in those jack pines, which is sort of a stunted little looking forest that's fairly open, really, for the most part. I've never seen it, but that's I've seen the images of it. And your buddy Peter Burke, I know, has done a lot of work on them as well. Yeah.
He told me that what the theory is, or I don't know if it's his theory or general theory, is that the glaciers right around the Great Lakes created this big, massive sand, like sort of sandy soil that appears here and there all over sort of the north side of the lakes, the Great Lakes. And it's this situation where the jack pine grows in really sort of poor sandy soil, and the warblers are special to this sandy soil patch. So they probably evolved post glaciation. The earliest glaciations are adapted to this very specific pine habitat. And it doesn't have to be jack pine. Apparently red pine will also work, but it has to be even growth. So after a fire, it's really specific. Gosh,
right. So they just got a few years basically after a fire, right? Like 5 years or something like that.
Yeah. And then it has to be sort of managed for them now that we don't have sort of fires that used to sort of go rampant through those habitats like it used to happen. So there's a lot of management that goes on for the warbler, and Peter's work is actually creating habitat in Ontario in places where the right situation occurs. And their idea is like, if they create the habitat, they will get warblers. And there's some evidence that, it's happening. They're going to get sort of a breeding population because they're sneaking in there into Ontario. So it's pretty neat. Who would have known, this Michigan bird, it really isn't a Michigan bird. It was just restricted to Michigan when it was really uncommon, but now it's in Wisconsin and other places that it's moved into. It's that entire Great Lakes sand. So if we rename it, maybe instead of jack pine warbler, we call it small pine warbler.
Small pine warbler.
Pine.
Or sand-loving warbler. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're probably a terrible idea.
Yeah. Let's find worse names.
Yeah.
Like really,
I'm your guy.
Proven names. We're going to make really bad names, Let's call it palm warbler. Oh, that's taken. Palmetto warbler.
Yeah. Now you're cooking with grease.
Yeah. But congratulations on the warbler then.
Yeah, man. Legit lifer, I got one last year just outside Philly when the bean goose was here. And apart from that, I think it's obviously been doing this a while. It's hard for me to get lifers kind of, anywhere right around here. But so that was the first one since the bean goose. And before that, it was the Pennsylvania black-backed oriole.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. It's North American new birds for us are few and far between, I guess, at this point after being at this for a while. And mine would be Smith's longspur that you mentioned on Naturally Adventurous.
Oh,
I've never
right.
seen a Smith's longspur ever. And I've looked, actually.
You'll probably get one on one of your boat trips out to the Farallones, hopping around, at the edge of the shore there or something.
Yeah, or walking my dog, out here in the fields.
Yeah.
Never know. But
where you live, that kind of stuff happens.
That's right. And anything right now, it's red-throated pipit sort of time of year. Like they could show up.
Keep waiting for one of those on the east someday.
Yeah, someday. While I've been talking to you, one of the boat captains just sent me this text that said that the short bill was in the harbor, and I'm like, that's it. And I'm thinking, I think he means short-tailed albatross.
Oh my gosh!
And there's been a windstorm last couple of days, so suddenly I'm intrigued. Let's put it this way.
Are you you're like, how did I end up recording a podcast with George right now? I should be out there looking at the ocean.
I know. So, but in the harbor means that it could just be like swimming around out there.
Gosh.
Well, we'll have
this
to
is a
see
youngster, I'm assuming, right? One of those chocolate ones. Yeah.
That's been sort of, if it's correctly identified, and the boat captains have been looking for this bird because they know that a lot of the birders want to see it, but it's been going up and down the California coast, and it's rather tame, this individual, and hasn't, I don't want to say an injury in the wing, but it's missing a bunch of feathers on one wing. So it's easily identified as the same individual that's been, hanging out near boats. So that's why a lot of the captains are identifying it or have found it here and there. So we'll see. We'll see.
Sounds sort of like this Heermann's gull that's been floating up and down the East Coast. I've lost track of how many states that thing's been seen in.
Yeah. Of course, our, great state of California is about 10 of your little tiny eastern states.
This is true.
So
wow.
One bird can stay in our state, and it would have been like 10 states elsewhere.
I like, Alvaro, how you said that there was no judgment attached to that statement, none whatsoever.
Those tiny little states. Yeah, dude. The list-oriented people have to, break it up into counties. Otherwise, it's just too much to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the Californians are crazy about the county listing. We're pretty serious about it here too, but counties are a little smaller, I think, for the most part.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention is that I'm excited to be going to the Cape May Fall Birding Festival this coming weekend. It'll be my first birding festival since 2019, post first one since, kind of pre-pandemic. It'll be really fun to see. There's going to be so many people there. People coming in from all over the place. I think like Carlos Betancourt's coming in from Panama. There's going to be just a great gang of folks. And looking back, I was kind of looking back at my Cape May birds over the years and realized that tomorrow, October 13th, will be I think it's the 15th anniversary of one of the cooler birds I ever got to kind of co-find, which was a sulphur-bellied flycatcher in Cape May. Really good bird, anywhere in the East. I think at that point there was maybe one or two records in Florida and, just not many east of the Mississippi. Louisiana had one or two, and that was really about it. And I remember I had a group of like 6 people, and we were, we're birding around. It was one of these mid-October days. Cold front came through, birds all over the place. They're whizzing by. Cape May, it can actually be a real challenge, especially if you're a new birder, because there can be so many birds that it can be tough to kind of, focus in on one and figure out which one. Like someone's like, oh, there's a I don't know, Cape May warbler over there, or there's a Tennessee, and like figuring out which one, or just it's seen so briefly, it can be really frustrating for people actually, because there's so many birds, right? That's a good problem to have. This was a day kind of like that. And I had this group of 6 folks, and I just saw this bird come in, and I had like a little window on it, kind of threw some cherries and sassafras, and I just saw it land there. And
sassafras.
Yeah, that's a fun word to say, right? Sassafras. Yeah.
Sarsaparilla.
It's a great tree.
Yeah.
But this thing flew in, and I like right around that time I started hearing like some voices. Like I heard some people kind of hollering and yelling, and I was like, I wonder what that's about. It almost sounds like they got a good bird. And then I looked at this bird, and I actually dropped like a holy, I was like, beep. I was just like, usually on tour, I'm pretty composed, but I actually like had to use some profanity, and I was like, oh my God. And my participants, like, they're with me on the tour, just look at me like, they're like, oh, something's up, and I was like, there's a sulphur-bellied flycatcher, like right there. But I have this little window and I can't get it. And I'm like trying to get the scope on it. And then it moves again. And then I'm like, okay, I got it again, and then it moved again, and that was it. It was gone. Never saw it again. I called Michael O'Brien. He was on the dike there where they do the morning flight count, and he actually saw it flying away. He's pretty sure, but it was, that was it. And it turned out there were 2 other guys, John Feenstra and Bob Fogg, had just seen it like seconds before that, and kind of had a similar experience to what I did.
Wow.
So yeah, maybe similar luck. This weekend would be so very nice.
It's October's that time when things just sort of show up.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
boy,
yeah. There's a little corollary to that sulphur-bellied flycatcher. I feel like I should tell, even though it's a little embarrassing. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, now you have to tell it.
Yeah, I just kind of remembered it, but yeah.
Remember, people are listening, George. This is not just a conversation between me and you.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, yeah, like it was like a week after that, and I was dating this girl at the time named Jen, and this woman named Jen. And we went out, had ourselves a grand old time, had ourselves some drinks, and then, went back to her place. And as far as I knew, passed out. And, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, boy, that was a fun night. And, I might be a little worse for the wear today, but that sure was a good time. And she's like, yeah, it was a good time, George. Did you see any sulphur-bellied flycatchers last night? And I'm like, how do you even know what a sulphur-bellied flycatcher is? Like, she was not a birder at all, I'm like, how do you know? Like, I didn't talk about that. She would never, she didn't know birds at all, And I was like, how do you even know what that is? And she was like, well, George, I'll tell you. Last night at about 3 a.m, I watched you get up out of bed, go towards the window where there was a large stand-up mirror. You picked up the mirror, you moved it to the side, you drew back the curtains, you opened the window, and you started looking around outside. And you freaked me out. So I was like, George, what are you doing? And I turned around and I was like, I'm looking for sulphur-bellied flycatchers. And she's like, well, you're freaking me out. Come back to bed. And I was like, okay. So I put down the window, drew the shades, put the mirror back, went back to bed. No memory of it whatsoever.
So yeah, you can't count that one.
No, especially given that it was, it would have been a nocturnal checklist on eBird, put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Downtown Philadelphia.
Sulphur-bellied Flycatcher. We actually eventually, Ricardo Matus and I found one on a tour in Chile. First one ever that far south. They get around, but we earlier than that, when I was in university, my first year university, one showed up in Ontario, and it was October. Again, same kind of thing at Presqu'île Provincial Park, which is on the, about 3 hours away, or I want to say 3-4 hours away from where we were going to university. And the bunch of birders, were there, all my friends, Peter that we mentioned earlier, Carl, Ian, all sort of my teenage birding friends.
Your squad.
We all went to the same school, same year. And the only one with a car was Ian, and he had a VW Bug.
Oh, wow.
Old one.
Yeah, the classics.
God. And we decided, like, this is the bird of a lifetime, a Canada sulphur-bellied flycatcher, bird of, Mexico / Central America, showing up there. This is crazy. It's, it's one step away from being a Trogon in Canada, So we decided, we're going to get Ian to go for this. And he was kind of, he was trying to take school seriously and all that kind of stuff. And
this is what you call peer pressure.
Peer pressure. And, we figured out what class he was in, and we were at the window. There was a window in the door, like, just sort of waving our hands, like doing binocular, symbology around our eyes, and he was just looking at us, ignoring, and, he didn't come out. So we had to wait till this class was over. And they said, "Oh, sulphur-bellied flycatcher just been found, whatever, it's over there, and let's go." And he was like, no, guys, there's no way. It's like, don't have money for gas. So we eventually peer pressured him into it. And the car was not up to the task.
Oh boy.
Let's put it that way. And we were going off, like he's eventually going there and he's driving, we're motoring along thinking, a couple hours from now, we'll have ourselves a sulphur-bellied flycatcher. and it overheats. The car overheats. And, they had a crappy cooling system in those cars, so we let it mellow out for a while, wait side of the highway. Okay. Keep on going. Oh, I think it overheated again. We wait, so this 3-hour trip turns into this nightmare of like 5 or something hours. And there's a point in time we've invested so much time and energy at this that we're like, we're still doing this, we're going, we get there and you see all the birders sitting there, and we arrive and they said, "Oh man, yeah, it's here. It was here like 5 minutes ago."
Oof.
And it was never seen again.
Ouch. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's the old, it was just here a minute ago. Yeah.
I know. And it was just, but I got to say, we had such a good time just joking around in that car. And we still, I still see like a VW Bug, and I know there's some people that love them, and it's a crappy car, and it cost me a really great bird.
There goes our Volkswagen sponsorship.
Yeah, I know. Well, new Volkswagens might be better, but but consolation prize, very late Bobolink. Very late Bobolink.
Wow. Yeah, that is a real glasses half full Bobolink right there. Yeah,
I know. So it's sometimes not seeing a bird can be just really dispiriting and awful, but that was actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
Just because it's a bunch of it was just so great. We didn't wake up thinking we were going to do that. We did it. We failed, but we had a good time doing it.
The journey
froze our butts off too. That car had no heating.
Wow.
So it would overheat, but it wouldn't heat you. So I don't know how that worked.
It's not ideal in a vehicle when you're late fall, early winter in Ontario. Yeah.
Yeah. And before people think, oh wow, he's so old that, everybody was like driving around VW Bugs. No, at that time, it was an old car that was like a really old. It wasn't like people were driving these things around. He had like a vintage car,
Yeah,
so
like
it's
a '68 Volkswagen Bug.
yeah. Like I don't know what he was thinking, you know. So, anyways, hate that car.
Oh man. Well, I think this is an episode that Charlie and Ken would approve of. Stories from the field.
Stories from the field.
Yeah, man. Well, I think we could wrap up here soon, but we did want to say too that we look forward to having Ken on as a guest. So those of you that are fans of Naturally Adventurous and enjoy listening to Charlie and Ken, we're going to have Ken Behrens on here down the road. So that'll be fun to get him on here and talk about birds and birding adventures with him. So look forward to that.
I think he might know where the Delmarva Peninsula is.
Better odds, I think. Yeah.
Better odds. But,
yeah.
you know, I love that name because it actually sounds cool and it is like Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. You know, that's so then you think like, well, that's kind of corny, but no, it actually sounds cool. Like it's, you know, like it was meant to be that word, you know, and it comes from way back.
Yeah.
from some, you know, indigenous land or something, Delmarva, right?
Yeah.
No, it's just, it's concocted, but
yeah,
I
but
like
it works. It works. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Great birding area. Yeah. Cool, man. Well, any final thoughts, Alvaro Jaramillo, for today, I should say.
Well, check out my website, alvarosadventures.com. There's an events section up there. 3 different workshops in the next month and a half or so. Waterfowl, winter sparrows, and then large white-headed gulls. So these are workshops I'll give live over Zoom. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't done a workshop for a while. I'm sort of stopped during the main part of the pelagic season. So as the pelagic season's wrapping up, I'm starting up a few new workshops. So
nice.
Yeah, check it out if you're interested in any of those groups. And the gull one is always popular. Even though people don't like gulls, they want to like them.
Yeah.
And I try to help them like them by understanding a little bit more what they look like and simplify the whole thing, because it's actually often made harder than it should be.
Yeah. No, I'm sure I have seen you in action in the field teaching people about gulls, and you do a great job of making them seem more accessible and actually be more accessible, because they are definitely one of the most challenging groups. So that should be fantastic.
Yeah. Otherwise, that's it. I got nothing else.
Right on. Nice. Well, we do look forward to getting Molly Brown back. She had her first pelagic experience off the East Coast here in North Carolina. We're looking forward to chatting with her about that. And she's headed up to Canada soon. So we're going to get her back involved here real soon. And thanks, everybody, for listening. Good talking to you, Alvaro. Keep birding, everybody.
Yeah. We'll see you next time, everybody.